Listen carefully, because what I'm about to share with you cost me millions to understand. Not once, but 3 separate times I built fortunes from absolutely nothing. And 3 separate times I watched those fortunes collapse before my eyes. The lessons I gained were not written in textbooks, nor were they taught in universities or institutions. They were carved into my life through blood, sweat, and the bitter ink of bankruptcy. And one of the hardest lessons I ever learned had nothing to do with charts, patterns, or timing the market. It had everything to do with silence. Most traders don't fail because they lack intelligence or skill. They fail because they speak too much. They reveal their positions, their strategies, their fears, and their ambitions to anyone willing to listen. And when they do that, they unknowingly hand their advantage to the very market that will later use that information against them. Before we go deeper into the 6 things you must never reveal, let me ask you to do something first. Take a moment to check out our new ebook, Thinking Like Jesse Livermore, Mastering the Market with Discipline, Patience, and Risk. You will find the link in the description below. Inside it, you'll discover the principles I learned through years of experience. Lessons distilled into ideas you can begin applying immediately. Now let's talk about what silence truly means in this business. The market is not your friend. It is not your therapist. It is certainly not your drinking companion who will keep your secrets safe. The market is a battlefield, and every word you speak becomes intelligence for your enemies. I learned this lesson the hard way in 1907. When I shorted the market before the panic, I had been building my position quietly and methodically, following the tape the way a bloodhound follows a scent. Everything was deliberate. Everything was silent. But one evening, after a few drinks, I casually mentioned my position to another trader. It wasn't a detailed explanation, just a casual remark. Within days, something strange began happening. Every time I attempted to add to my short positions, the price would mysteriously strengthen. Someone was watching. Someone knew. That was when I realized the first rule: never reveal your current positions. When you tell people what you're holding, you're not simply sharing information. You're creating opposing forces. If you're long and everyone knows it, the moment the stock begins to show weakness, others will push it down harder, knowing you'll eventually be forced to sell. If you're short and the news spreads, powerful traders may squeeze you until the pressure becomes unbearable. Your position is a private war, and the moment you make it public, you invite your enemies directly into your strategy room. But the matter goes deeper than positions alone. The second thing you must guard with your life is your strategy. I'm not referring to your broad philosophy. I've written about speculation and discussed ideas like tape reading, timing, and market behavior. Those are general principles. What must remain protected are the precise mechanisms, the exact indicators, the specific entry and exit points, the small details that form the core of your method. Those must remain locked inside your mind, like gold inside a vault. I once knew an exceptionally intelligent trader, one of the sharpest minds I had ever encountered. He created a remarkable system for identifying accumulation in railroad stocks. It was brilliant. Unfortunately, he could not resist the temptation to demonstrate his intelligence. During a dinner gathering, he explained his entire system to a group of traders. Within 6 months, his edge had completely vanished. Because once too many people understand your strategy, it stops working. The market adapts, patterns evolve. Your edge becomes everyone's edge, and when everyone has the same advantage, it ceases to be an advantage at all. Think of it like a secret fishing spot. When you alone know where the fish are biting, you eat well. Tell 10 people and suddenly the area becomes crowded. Tell 100 people and eventually the fish disappear. The market operates the same way. It is a zero-sum game with millions of participants, where your profit comes from someone else's loss. Why would you ever equip your opponent with the very weapon you use to succeed? The third thing you must never reveal is your profit and loss. This mistake nearly ruined me more than once. Success can be intoxicating, especially when you rise from nothing, as I did. When you turn $10,000 into $100,000, the temptation to celebrate publicly becomes overwhelming. When you make a brilliant call that generates a fortune, you want recognition. You want others to see that your success was not luck, it was skill. But revealing your profits creates two serious problems. First, it attracts parasites. Suddenly, everyone wants to be your friend. People approach you with deals, requests for loans, or promises of the next great opportunity. Your attention shifts away from making money and toward protecting it, from hunting opportunities to defending yourself from opportunists. Second, and even more dangerous, it creates psychological pressure. Once people know you are making large sums of money, they begin watching you closely. They wait for your mistakes. Worse still, you begin trading to maintain your reputation instead of responding honestly to the market. You take reckless risks to prove your brilliance. You refuse to close losing trades because you cannot bear the embarrassment of others seeing you fail. After my biggest success in 1929, and U.S. papers everywhere printed my name, Jesse Livermore, the man who made $100 million shorting the crash. It sounded magnificent. But that publicity nearly destroyed me. Every trade I made became public discussion. Every loss was magnified. Thousands of spectators who had never risked a single dollar began analyzing my every decision. The pressure was enormous. I began making decisions based on expectations instead of the tape. And the moment you trade for validation, rather than truth, your downfall begins. Similarly, you must never reveal your losses. This may seem strange. Why hide losses? Because losses also create opportunities for others to exploit you. When people know you are struggling, they sense weakness. If word spreads that you are trapped in a losing position, aggressive traders may push the market further against you, squeezing every dollar they can from your misfortune. Additionally, speaking repeatedly about your losses strengthens them psychologically. A temporary setback becomes a permanent identity. You stop being a trader learning from experience and become the trader who failed. I went broke 3 times during my career. 3 times, each time I learned critical lessons, but I never displayed those losses publicly. I never gave interviews about how the market defeated me. I studied my mistakes privately, repaired my strategy, and returned stronger. The market has no sympathy. It does not grant second chances out of kindness. It respects only capital and the courage to risk it. When you publicly dwell on your losses, you spend psychological capital that should be reserved for your recovery. Now we enter more subtle territory. Mistakes even experienced traders often make. The fourth thing you must never reveal is your timeline. Early in my career, I would sometimes tell my wife or my partners how long I expected a trade to last. I might say a position should run for 6 weeks, or that I planned to hold until the end of the month. It seemed harmless, but every time I set an external deadline, I created unnecessary pressure, unrelated to market conditions. Imagine you tell someone you plan to hold a stock for 3 months. After 2 months, the trade is working beautifully, but the move shows no sign of ending. However, the deadline you announced is approaching. Now you feel pressure to close the trade, not because the market demands it, but because you committed to a timetable. You exit early and miss the biggest part of the move. The opposite scenario is worse. You declare that a position is a long-term hold, perhaps 3 years. 6 months later, the stock falls 20%, and signals clearly indicate the trend has broken. Yet you refuse to exit because you publicly committed to a long timeline. That 20% loss may eventually become 50 or 70%, all because of a deadline that had nothing to do with the market. Eventually, I learned to keep my timelines flexible and private. Sometimes I held positions for months. Other times I entered and exited within a single day. The only clock that mattered was the market's clock. The moment you reveal your timeline, you chain yourself to expectations outside the market's rhythm. And in trading, rhythm is everything. You must dance with the market rather than march to a predetermined schedule. The fifth thing you must never reveal is your level of conviction. When you strongly believe in a trade, keep that conviction burning inside you, but appear calm and neutral when discussing it with others. The worst mistake you can make is broadcasting your certainty. Once I was completely convinced that Union Pacific stock would collapse. Every factor aligned. The fundamentals were deteriorating. The tape action suggested distribution, and the situation seemed clear. But during a dinner conversation with several prominent traders, I confidently announced that the stock would fall dramatically. 2 of those traders immediately took the opposite side of my trade. Not because they disagreed with my analysis, But because they knew how convinced I was, they believed they could force me out before the move truly began. For 2 weeks, they pushed the price higher, triggering stop orders and creating false breakouts designed to shake my confidence. They nearly succeeded. If I had remained silent, they would have had no reason to target that position. From that day onward, I learned to maintain a mask of indifference, even when I felt absolute certainty. Let others assume you are unsure. Let them believe you are experimenting. But inside, hold your conviction like a hidden weapon, and size your positions accordingly. Likewise, revealing uncertainty can also be dangerous. Doubt is natural in trading because markets operate on probabilities rather than certainty. But when others know you are unsure, they may exploit that weakness and force you out of positions that might have succeeded. Finally, the sixth and most important thing you must never reveal is your emotional state. The market is a psychological battlefield. Your emotions are vulnerabilities. Fear, greed, anger, excitement, and desperation are signals experienced traders read just as carefully as they read price movements. If others see your fear, they apply pressure. If they see your excitement, they fade your enthusiasm. If they see your desperation, they demand worse prices from you. I have seen countless traders destroyed not by poor analysis but by publicly revealing their emotional state. A trader trapped in a losing position panics. Instead of quietly managing the situation, he calls brokers frantically and complains to colleagues about his problem. Word spreads quickly. Market makers recognize a desperate seller. Buyers withdraw their bids. Prices collapse, and the trader receives the worst execution possible. The opposite happens during euphoria. I once watched a young trader make several brilliant trades in railroad stocks during the 1920s. His success made him ecstatic. He entered the brokerage house, smiling constantly and treating everyone to lunch. His excitement revealed everything. Soon other traders began observing him closely, waiting for the moment his luck changed. When it finally did, they attacked his positions relentlessly. His visible excitement made him a target. The greatest traders I ever encountered were not the loudest people in the brokerage house. They were the quiet ones. But the men who sat in the corner, studying the tape, keeping their thoughts to themselves. They entered positions without fanfare and exited without explanation. They made fortunes while others made excuses. They understood that in trading, as in poker, the player who controls their expression controls the game. But keeping quiet isn't just about hiding from others. It's also about protecting yourself from yourself. Every time you talk about a trade, you reinforce whatever narrative you've constructed around it. If you're winning and you talk about it, you start to believe your own hype. You think you've figured out something fundamental about the market. You become overconfident, then the market does what it always does to overconfident traders. It takes everything back and then some. If you're losing and you talk about it, you embed the loss in your identity. You become a loser in your own mind. You start making decisions from a defensive crouch rather than from a position of strength. The more you recount the story of how the market beat you, the more real that beating becomes and the harder it is to bounce back. So how do you actually implement this principle of silence? It's not easy, especially in our modern world, where everyone wants to share everything. Social media has turned trading into a performance art. People post their positions, their profits, their strategies, all for likes and followers. They think they're building credibility, but they're actually destroying their edge and setting themselves up for failure. First, you need to create a clear boundary between your trading life and your social life. Your friends don't need to know what you're working on. Your family doesn't need a play-by-play of your positions. Keep a journal. Yes, write down everything. Analyze your trades obsessively, but keep that journal locked away where only you can see it. Your inner dialogue about the market should be exactly that, inner. Second, resist the urge to prove yourself. This is the hardest part, especially when you're young or when you've just had a big win. The human ego craves recognition. We want people to know we're smart, we're skilled, we're special. But in trading, the only recognition that matters is the recognition from your account balance. The market doesn't care about your ego. It doesn't give bonus points for style or showmanship. It only pays those who are right and who have the discipline to capitalize on being right. I knew a trader once who was absolutely brilliant. He could read market sentiment better than anyone I'd ever met, but he had this compulsion to be acknowledged as the smartest man in the room. So he'd make predictions loudly, publicly. And when he was right, he'd make sure everyone knew about it. But here's the thing. Even though he was right more often than not, he never made any real money. Why? Because he was trading for social recognition rather than profit. He'd close winners too early so he could talk about them while they still looked good. He'd hold losers, hoping they'd turn around so he wouldn't have to admit he was wrong. His need for external validation destroyed his edge. Don't be that trader. Trade for profit, not for applause. The standing ovation you get from a growing account balance is the only applause worth having, and it's completely silent. When you make a great trade, savor it privately. Feel the satisfaction deep in your chest where no one else can see it. Let that internal reward be enough, because the moment you need external validation, you've given control of your psychology to people who have no skin in your game. Third, develop a practice of strategic ambiguity when people ask you about your trading, and they will learn to be vague without being dishonest. "I'm looking at a few things" is a perfectly acceptable answer. "Still studying the market" works just fine. You don't owe anyone a detailed breakdown of your positions or strategy. Even with close friends and family, you can maintain boundaries. "I prefer not to discuss active positions" is a perfectly reasonable stance that most people will respect. I learned to deflect questions by asking them instead. Someone asks me what I think about a particular stock, I turn it around. "What do you think about it? What are you seeing?" This serves two purposes. First, it protects my own positions and thoughts. Second, it often gives me additional information about market sentiment. You'd be amazed what people will tell you when you just listen. Fourth, be especially careful around other traders. This seems counterintuitive, because you'd think fellow traders would be the perfect people to discuss markets with, and there is value in exchanging general ideas about market conditions. But never ever reveal your specific positions or strategies to other traders, no matter how friendly they seem. Remember, this is a zero-sum game. Your profit is someone else's loss. The trader who seems like your buddy today might be the one squeezing your position tomorrow. I've had friendships destroyed by trading. I've had partners who betrayed me. I've had people I trusted use information I shared against me. It's not even always malicious. Sometimes it's just opportunistic. Someone hears you're short a stock, and they see an opportunity to make money by squeezing that stock. They're not thinking about your friendship. They're thinking about profit. And in this game, you can't blame them for that. You can only blame yourself for giving them the information. Now, you might be thinking, "But Jesse, didn't you write books? Didn't you give interviews?" Yes, I did. But I was careful about what I revealed. I shared philosophy. I shared general principles. I talked about the nature of markets and human psychology, but I never told you exactly what I was holding at any given moment. I never revealed the specific indicators I was watching, or the precise timing of my entries and exits. There's a world of difference between education and revelation. You learn to trust yourself. You learn to trust the tape. You develop conviction that comes from within rather than from external validation. And that inner conviction is what allows you to hold positions when everyone else is panicking, to enter when others are too afraid, to exit when others are still euphoric. That kind of psychological independence is worth more than all the tips and insider information in the world. I want you to understand something fundamental. The market rewards the silent and destroys the vocal. This isn't a moral judgment. It's just the nature of the game. Information is currency, and every time you speak, you're spending that currency without getting anything in return. The traders who make real money, who build lasting fortunes, are the ones who learn to operate in the shadows, who keep their counsel, who make their moves without telegraphing them. Think about the greatest traders in history. You know their names because of their results, not because they were constantly talking about their positions. They appeared in the public eye after their fortunes were made, not during the making. They understood that the work happens in private, in the quiet hours studying the tape, in the lonely moments when you're the only one who believes in your analysis. The glory, if it comes later, and even then, the truly wise ones remain largely silent. So here's what I want you to do. Starting today, implement a personal policy of trading silence. Make it a rule that you will not discuss your active positions with anyone. Not your spouse, not your friends, not other traders. Keep a private journal if you must talk about it, but keep it private journal if you must talk about it, but keep it private. Treat your trading like a covert operation, because that's essentially what it is. You're operating in hostile territory, and every word you speak is intelligence that can be used against you. Watch what happens. I guarantee you'll notice improvements in multiple areas. Your execution will get better because you're not creating counterforces. Your psychology will strengthen because you're not subject to external pressure and opinion. Your conviction will deepen because it's based on your analysis alone. And most importantly, your results will improve because you're protecting your edge. This isn't about being antisocial or paranoid. It's about being professional. A professional trader treats trading like a business. And in business, you don't share your strategies with competitors. You don't reveal your plans before they're executed. You don't broadcast your vulnerabilities. You operate with discretion, discipline, and determination. And here's the beautiful irony. As you become more silent about your trading, you'll find that you have more to say about life in general. The energy and anxiety you were spending on talking about trades gets redirected into living. You become more present with your family. You enjoy your hobbies more fully. You're not carrying the psychological burden of having to defend your positions to people who don't understand them. Trading becomes just one part of your life, a private part, rather than your entire identity. The 6 things I've shared with you today, your positions, your strategies, your profits and losses, your timeline, your conviction level, and your emotional state. These are sacred. They're your private property. Guard them the way a jeweler guards diamonds, the way a general guards battle plans, the way an artist guards their unfinished masterpiece. Because that's what they are, the raw materials of your success, and they lose their value the moment you expose them to the light of day. Remember this, in trading, as in war, the silent warrior is the dangerous one. It's not the soldier who shouts his battle cry that you should fear. It's the one who moves through the shadows, who strikes without warning, who's gone before you even knew he was there. Be that trader. Move through the markets like a ghost. Let your unbalance be the only evidence of your presence. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever lost money because you talked too much about a trade? Have you felt the pressure of external opinions affecting your decisions? Drop a comment below and share your experience. We're building a community of disciplined traders here, and your insights help everyone grow. And while you're at it, check out some of our other videos on the channel where we dive deep into specific trading strategies and psychological principles that can transform your approach to the markets. Before you go, I cannot emphasize enough how much more there is to learn. What I've shared today is just scratching the surface. If you want to truly understand how to think about markets, how to develop the discipline that separates winners from losers, you need to get your hands on our ebook, Thinking Like Jesse Livermore, Mastering the Market with Discipline, Patience and Risk. It's linked in the description below. This book takes everything I learned through decades of trading, the wins, the losses, the comebacks, and distills it into actionable principles you can apply immediately. The market is waiting for no one. Every day you delay in developing proper trading discipline is a day you're leaving money on the table. Or worse, losing it to traders who understand these principles better than you do. Don't be the trader who learns everything the hard way. Learn from my mistakes. Learn from my victories. Get the ebook, study it, apply it, and join the ranks of traders who actually make money consistently. The game is always on. The tape never stops moving. But now you have a powerful weapon, the understanding that silence is not just golden in trading, it's essential. Use it, protect it, and watch how it transforms not just your results, but your entire relationship with the market. The greatest trades I ever made started with silence and ended with silence. The world only knew about them when it was too late to matter. That's the way it should be. That's the way you should operate from now on. Be the trader everyone wonders about, not the one everyone already knows everything about. Now go close this video, open your charts. And remember, from this moment forward, your trading is your secret. Guard it well, and it will guard you in return. The market respects only one thing: results. Let yours speak for themselves, but only to you in the silence of your growing account balance. That's all for now. Until next time, trade wisely, trade silently, and let the market come to you rather than chasing it with words that diminish your power. Check out our other content, get that ebook, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll go even deeper into the mind of a master speculator. Keep your cards close and your profits closer. Keep your cards closer.